Welcome everyone back to the weekly weather podcast, and in this week's podcast we're going to be having a look at the winter storms in North America. Now, winter's been pretty dire for the UK so far, and it wasn't that great for America either, and up until the last couple of weeks, and we've seen multiple winter storms, nor'easters that have produced historic amounts of snowfall. Saw highest ever daily or sort of 24-hour period of snow in Boston, about 26 inches of snow. Truly exceptional conditions, I must say. But it's not too unusual. But just compared to the UK, it is ridiculous amounts of snow. And they currently have a winter storm going on as I am recording this, with this storm moving up the northeast coast. Again, another nor'easter, a bit further inland, so the areas right towards the coast, Boston, New York, Washington, that got a bit hit very frequently over the last last week or two, are seeing rain from this storm. But further inland across many parts of northeast America, Maine, New York State, New Hampshire, Vermont, down to Pennsylvania, and has already spread up through many of the central states, have seen multiple inches of snow, widely 20, 30 centimetres of snow along that sort of bullseye area right along the sort of boundary. And with this storm, we haven't seen it with some of the other recent storms, but there is an ice element to it. You see these pinks and purples, that is ice or a bit of sleet as well. And if you don't know what ice is, or an ice storm, it's very rare to happen in the UK because you generally need very, very big temperature contrast, which is something we don't tend to see in the UK. As remember, in America, you've got the minus 30 isotherm, which is in Canada, and you've got the plus 15, plus 20 isotherm down in Mexico, where those two collide. Big temperature contrast causes these massive storms. An ice storm is where the upper air conditions are very mild, they're above freezing. However, the surface is below freezing, and you generally get that. We get these big temperature contrasts, the warm air rises, the cold air sinks, and you get precipitation falling out the sky, and it falls as rain, but as soon as it gets to the low level of the atmosphere, it cools down very quickly. Super cool water, and basically what happens is it freezes upon hitting any surfaces, and we've seen it a few times in the UK. We saw it with Storm Emma, with the beast from the east, when we had very bitterly cold air with milder air coming up from the south. And as I said, that was a huge temperature contrast. We've seen it a few other times with some weather fronts in off the Atlantic colliding against a bit of a block to our east. Again, very cold and very mild air masses. And it's probably more destructive than snow because the ice sticks to everything. It brings down power lines, trees, and the ice weighs a ton. And I'm not exaggerating, it weighs a lot. And it brings down trees, it brings down trees, brings down power lines. Very, very disruptive, and can knock out power to areas for days, if not a week or two. So these sort of storms are very, very, very bad. But again, it is only a slither along the boundary between the bitterly cold air and the rain. You go a bit further eastwards and southwards, it's rain. A bit further northwards and westwards, it's all falling. It's big powdery snow. But as I said, this is one of a number of storms they've had recently, and is all fueled by the warm air coming out of the Gulf of Mexico, warm moist air colliding with bitterly cold air coming out of northern Canada. And this is one of the reasons why we are westerly at the moment. You see all this energy coming out of northeast America is fueling the jet stream, which heads straight across to the UK, bringing us a westerly flow. You can see just how far southwards America is, seeing all these big winter storms. Again, if the UK was on this latitude, or the UK on our latitude, we should expect temperatures below freezing for much of the winter. But because of the jet stream, because of the Gulf Stream, warm ocean, warm sea surface temperatures coming up the Atlantic, means we stay much milder than we really should be for our location on the planet. But yeah, you can see massive amount of snow falling in the northeast. And again, if I pull up the temperatures, you can see the massive temperature contrast. Bitterly cold. I mean, minus 10 to minus 20 degrees widely across much of America, even down to parts of Texas, into New Mexico, Arizona. These are deserts where it gets to 40, even 50 degrees sometimes in the summer. They are widely below freezing. Now, of course, it is nighttime for them. You can see in New York it's 7 a.m, so this is their overnight lows, but it is still bitterly cold. In the day, of course, it will get to above freezing, but overnight, really cold. And you can see that warm sector coming up from Mexico, South America, and the Caribbean, colliding with that cold. Along that boundary is where we're getting the heavy snowfall. Once again, you can see that contrast. UK on its latitude was in Canada, for example, along the Canadian-American border. We would be around minus 15 degrees if you follow that line across, around minus 15, minus 20 degrees. But again, because of the jet stream and because of the Gulf Stream, the ocean currents, we are much milder than we generally should be. And some would argue that it's a bad thing, that they want the snow, but I must say it is probably one of the best things about the UK weather. Even though we, of course, love snow, or many people love snow, honestly, we would have probably a much different sort of lifestyle if we did have the conditions similar to Canada and the northern states of America. We wouldn't have all the sporting fixtures we have in the winter. It'd be too cold. We would not be having anywhere near as much sort of outdoor stuff in the winter. And of course, we'd have to change our infrastructure up significantly as well, as we would expect to have snow on the ground for many months of the year if we did have these temperatures. But luckily we don't. And America really does get probably the worst weather on the planet, or some of the worst weather on the planet, because of this temperature contrast, fueling tornadoes in the spring, and winter storms, and of course big summer storms, heat waves as well in the summer, because not only this cold air plunges down in the winter, the hot air that develops across Central America and the southern states can spread northwards. And again, we saw that heat dome last summer across parts of Oregon and Washington. We've seen temperatures into the 30s in Alaska, all because of the air pumping northwards. America really is a truly special place for weather conditions. And if we do also have a look at some of the layers as well, if we do have a look at the past 24-hour snowfall, again, this is only the past 24 hours which has fallen out the sky. So we could have seen significantly more on the ground from previous storms. You can see the storm track there along sort of the bullseye zone, as they call it. You can see widely 20, 30 centimetres, if not 40 or 50 centimetres, right along those sort of lighter pinks. Again, all depends on banding, but again, you can see very, very steep drop off to patchy snowfall and then rain, and along that boundary would have been seeing some significant ice. But you see that snow all the way down into parts of Texas, Austin, Texas, Houston, areas that see hurricanes in the summer, seeing snowfall and significant snowfall, few inches of snow. Again, if this fell in the UK, we'd be talking about this for years, just simply because it would be something truly out of the world in terms of seeing this much snowfall. Now, if you go over to Wetter Central and have a look at the current pressure charts, now you can see it doesn't look too exceptional really, but you've got bitterly cold air to the north, spreading southwards, and real warm air. See the plus 10, plus 15 isotherm moving up Florida, up along the east coast, but you got the minus 10, minus 5, and minus 15 lines very close to the northeast. And that temperature contrast spawns these big storms, and that spreads out into the Atlantic and heads towards the UK. And if we do have a look at the sort of the dew points as well, you can see the bitterly cold dew points. Dry air coming up against very moist air, and we see these big storms develop. And we can also have a look at another widespread 2-meter temperatures overview. Again, widely America is bitterly cold. And if we do have a look, go back to the 850 degree temperatures, we have a look at global looks. You can see the UK there, under this low pressure system just to our north with a northwesterly flow. Pretty chilly for the UK, as we see across yesterday's video. Very cold, snowy weather in the north. But you can see all this bitterly cold air that's actually to our south, but way to our west across parts of North America. Really, it's truly exceptional how cold it does get there. And I'm sometimes, of course, I am envious that we don't see these colder conditions in the UK that often. But at the same time, I'm kind of grateful because it would really spice things up in the winter. We really would have to change our habits, change things we enjoy doing. As I said earlier, sport, infrastructure would have to change. So it is a good thing we have the Gulf Stream and the jet stream keeping us warmer. But you can see that temperature contrast really well there, and that heads straight towards the UK. And that's why we can see very cold northwesterly winds, because you see all this bitterly cold air getting towards the UK, but it also does spin up the low pressure systems, sending us. It's a bit stormy sometimes, but generally quite westerly. And I brought this up on previous videos and podcasts before. You can just see, if you look across our latitude, pretty much everywhere else along our latitude is under the -10 isotherm, whereas the UK is currently, a few areas under the -5 area, but we're generally around freezing at 50 HPA, whereas most areas, as I said, -10 to -20 degrees. Just shows you how the Gulf Stream does save us from true, proper winter weather. But yeah, truly exceptional conditions across North America. It's not too unusual to be seeing these winter storms, but it's back-to-back nature is very interesting. And of course, we saw that winter storm last week, or earlier this week, depends how you want to classify it, or exactly when it moved through, where we saw pretty much all the snow. As I said, that warm, cold boundary, if we go have a look at North America again. That warm, cold boundary was out to sea. So we had snow falling out in the North Atlantic, and all areas along the East Coast saw significant snowfall. All the major cities saw at least a few inches. And I said Boston again saw 20, 30 inches of snow in the, sort of the bullseye region. And again, it's difficult to comprehend for people in the UK how heavy this snowfall is. They're getting snowfall rates of 2 to 4 inches an hour. 2 to 4 inches in the UK, many would classify as pretty major snow event, and we'd see that normally fall across 6 hours or so. They're seeing 2 to 4 inches, which is around 5 to 10 centimetres of snow in an hour. So it goes from nothing to 5 to 10 centimetres, which is very disruptive in the space of, an hour or so. So it is truly exceptional what we're seeing in America at the moment in terms of these winter storms for the UK. But actually for Americans, it isn't too unusual. But with the globe generally warming, we've had a few poor winters both sides of the pond now for the last few years. So yeah, I'll return to sort of old habits for America with these big nor'easters, and doesn't look like they're going anywhere. And if we do generally just quickly go through the pressure charts, you just see a bit milder, potentially next week, but see another cold plunge there, and more of these winter storms brewing. Again, they look like they're going to be further northwards and westwards, not nor'easters generally, but still more winter storms with more cold air plunging out of the Arctic. And you can see right towards the end of the run, that would be a major cold outbreak there, with the -20 line moving into many central states. That would be very interesting to see indeed. So a lot of people listening to this will kind of think -5, -10 degrees in the UK is bitterly cold. It is another level in America, and I am pretty grateful for the jet stream that we do have, keeping us a little bit milder than we really should be. So anyway, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and I'll see you again for another video soon.